Hi, boys and girls. If it's April 22nd, then it is Earth Day. And on Earth Day, we talk about our world and we talk about the resources it has and we talk about how to take care of our Earth better and things to do and not to do. And so I'm going to read us a book called My Very First Our World book. And this is by Usborne Publishing, which has some great books, some of my favorite books. And the author and the illustrator are actually on the back. This is illustrated by Lee Cosgrove and written by Matthew Oldham. And the reason why the illustrator is listed first is because this book has a lot of illustrations, so it's kind of the main thing. So my very first Our World book, and just so you know, I am not going to read every little thing on here. There's a lot of stuff that is in here and I could cover, but for right now, I am just going to read some of the main things and the main ideas I want to get across on Earth Day. Our world, our home. From the bluest oceans to the tallest mountains, our world is full of spectacular sights. Wherever you live, it's outside your door, waiting to be explored. Our world is home to billions of people and animals. It's also home to millions of living things we've not yet discovered. So you can look at all the really cool pictures. And yes, again, another one of my books has been destroyed by my daughter who ate it, not Charlotte. Planet Earth. If you went up in a spaceship, this is what our world would look like. It's a big ball of rock called planet Earth. It takes one day for the Earth to spin all the way around. As it spins, some parts of the Earth catch the sun's light, but others are in a shadow. And then here are just some snapshots of where people live. You can look at that a little closer. I'm gonna move my chair. Changing seasons. Seasons are changes in the weather that take place at different times of the year. Some parts of the world have 4 seasons, others have 2. Earth is divided into north and south by an imaginary line around the middle called the equator. When it's winter in the north, it's summer in the south. Seasons change less near the equator, where the weather is warm all year round. There's often a dry season, followed by a wet season when it rains nearly every day. Dusty deserts. Deserts are among the driest places on Earth, and some can also be the hottest. Living things here have found clever ways to live in the heat without much water. Dried up soil turns into dust, and sand that blows into big hills called sand dunes. These people live in the Arabian desert. They travel around in groups called caravans to find food and water. Did you know that people like that still live? I know sometimes that we think that these people are just in Bible times, but people still travel in caravans. Here's a camel. We can find a camel in the desert, and then we can also find all of these special animals that God gave different adaptations to the desert so they can stay alive. Steamy rainforests. Tropical rainforests grow in part of our world that are warm and wet. They're busy, noisy places where millions of animals and plants live together. Parts of this rainforest are so thick with trees, people have never reached them. Trees and rainforest grow close together. The top layer of trees is called a canopy. Isn't that cool? A canopy kind of like is just over top of you, shading you. Frozen poles. The North and South Poles are the coldest parts of the planet. The land and sea close to the poles are covered in snow and ice all year long. This floating ice has broken off a bigger block called an iceberg. The area around the North Pole is called the Arctic. It's mostly covered by a frozen ocean. Many creatures that live here have a lot of body fat and thick fur to keep warm. And look, some people still build shelters made of snow called igloos. Mountain high. Mountains are the highest places on Earth. They're so high, the weather at the bottom or base can be very different from the weather at the top or peak. When the snow and ice at the top melt, they trickle down to form lakes at the base. In winters, lots of mountains are entirely covered by snow. In summer, most of the snow melts. Lots of plants and animals come out. Running rivers. Even the widest river begins as a narrow stream on a hill. A river always flows downhill, collecting more water along its way. It ends when it meets another river, a lake, or the sea. All these types of animals can be found in the rivers. We are surrounded by rivers in Virginia. I bet on your way to school you even go over a bridge that is it's on top of a river. And we're going to talk more about rivers at the end and how to keep rivers healthy. The coast. The place where land meets the sea is called the coast. Here you might find cliffs, beaches, and all sorts of sea life. I love the ocean. I know you've been to the ocean in Virginia Beach or in Norfolk. Under the sea. Most of the earth is covered by salty seawater. Some sea creatures are found in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean, but most live near the surface or in shallow seas. And part of keeping our waterways clean is to protect these animals. So there are some things that we can do to help protect these animals. Under the ground. The world beneath our feet is full of life and buzzing with activity, just as it is on the surface. Go ahead and look at that picture closely. A lot of that is man-made, and it had to come from somewhere. Lots of creatures live in the soil near the surface. Here is where some creatures live, right below the roots of these trees. Underneath the soil there is solid rock. Here's an underground river. Wild weather. Storms look different all over the world. The most powerful storms don't happen often, but when they strike, they show the weather at its wildest. The strongest storms are called hurricanes and typhoons. They build up over warm seas, and when they reach land, they can destroy whole towns. I know we've had some hurricanes here in Norfolk. Volcanoes. Volcanoes are openings in the Earth's surface. Sometimes the hot, sticky rock that's buried deep underneath bursts through, causing a big explosion known as an eruption. Over time, most volcanoes grow into tall mountains made from layers of ash and cooled lava. Volcanoes under the sea can grow into islands that stick up above the water. Earthquakes. The ground beneath our feet is usually firm and solid, but during an earthquake, it can tremble and shake. Earthquakes at sea can cause giant waves called tsunami. They can flow for long distances inland, flooding towns and ruining crops. This is the page we're going to spend a little bit of time on. Living in our world. The earth provides for us in lots of ways. It has everything we need to survive, but we must look after what we have so it doesn't run out. Look closely at all of these things. These things are made out of, or they are natural resources for us. There's an end to them. They can run out if we don't take care of animals, or our water gets polluted if we don't take care of water. Metals and stones are used to make things, but guess what? Metal and stone runs out. Paper and wood come from trees, but guess what? If we don't plant new trees, we will wipe out whole forests. The earth gives us food to eat and water to drink. It also gives us materials we can use to make things and build houses. Burning fuel gives us energy and creates electricity, but it can also make the air dirty. Here's an example of that. We also use some cleaner energy sources to make electricity. We can use rushing water as a power source, light from the sun, and blowing wind. These are wind turbines. Small changes can make a big difference. Here are some things that you can do as a first grader to help your world. You can pick up litter. If you're on the playground or if you're out for a walk and you see litter, you could pick it up and throw it in the trash. You can recycle or reuse things. Look at this robot made Halloween costume. This year, Charlotte was a robot for Halloween, and she made her own costume out of recycled boxes. Turn off the lights when you don't need them. So when you're in your room, when you're exiting the kitchen or the bathroom, turn off the light so we're not wasting electricity. Walk around or cycle instead of driving. We can walk to a friend's house instead of driving there. Save water. So instead of just filling up the tub as high as we want, we can fill it up just halfway. Enjoy being outside. There's a lot you can do to look after our world. I hope you enjoyed this book, and maybe you can ask around for some other ways that you can help be kind to our earth.